Hello, everyone. Welcome to John Lewis and Victor's Academy Go Team meeting, where we will follow the agenda as it has been emailed to you and publicly noted. I am pleased to call this meeting of the John Lewis and Victor's Academy Go Team to order. Our first order of business is to call the roll and review our norms. The secretary will now take the roll.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Please respond present when your name is called. Mr. Garner,
Present.
Ms. Williams, Ms. Lomax, Ms. Laster,
Here.
Ms. Triplett,
Present.
Ms. Rump,
Present.
Ms. Haddock is present, Mr. Cogdell,
Present.
Ms. Jones, Ms. Ellis.
Here.
Thank you. And we do have a quorum present. All right, back over to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Okay, you said we have, yes, okay. The first action item on the agenda would be the approval of the agenda. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. This was provided to you and or a copy. Are there any changes in the agenda?
I don't see any changes
No.
that need to be made.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll motion to approve.
Second,
I second.
all in favor, please say A or raise your hand.
Hey.
All opposed, say nay. Are there any abstentions? Okay, next we're going to do the approval of the minutes. The minutes have been provided to you. Are there any corrections for the minutes?
And the minutes look good.
Minutes are fine. May I have a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second,
I second.
all in favor, please say A or raise your hand.
A.
All opposed, please say nay or raise your hand. Any abstentions? Please identify yourself or raise your hand. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our discussion item. And that's going to be discussion item number 1, the presentation of the final budget.
All right, good afternoon again, everyone. Ms. KB, can we pull up the budget presentation? All right, so here are our norms that we always discuss. So just take a look at those and let's make sure that we adhere to our meeting norms. All right. Next. All right. So we are at the final step of our budget process. And so I won't walk you through each step, but I've had the staffing conference. And we are now ready to look at the final budget I am ready to present the final budget to this team. And hopefully we can vote to approve it. Next slide. All right, so just again, some details about the budget approval meeting. You see what it is, what we're doing during this meeting. Go Teams will review the budget, which should be updated based on the feedback from the staffing conference, associate superintendent, and key leaders. After review, Go Team will need to take action, i.e. vote on the fiscal year 24 budget. Why principals will present the final budget recommendations for Go Team approval, and when all approval meetings must be held after staffing conferences. Budgets must be approved by March 17th. So they will be locked and loaded on that date. Next slide. All right, I won't go through all of this again. We probably know all of it by heart by now, but here are our school priorities. We're sitting around content knowledge as we voted as the top priority. Closing the achievement gap between general ed and special education students. Implementing STEAM enriched curriculum, and then preparing all students to have essential life skills to be self-aware, collaborative, and accepting diversity. Our next priority is prepare and develop knowledgeable staff focused on quality teaching, build teacher capacity in content areas, and then recommend high quality staff for vacant positions. Finally, create a culture of high expectation for academic scholarship, civic responsibility, and service of students, staff, and families. Ensure systems and resources are aligned to school priorities, and then build systems and resources to support STEAM implementation. All right. So at our staffing conference, there were not any changes made to the draft that we decided to present to them. The associate superintendent, Dr. Woolfolk, and our HR specialist, Mr. Kendall Amerson, agreed with what we would like to do, and they did approve. All right. So overall, here's our budget. Our projected enrollment, again, 787 students. If we hit that number, we will receive all of these funds. If we come below that number, then of course we would lose funds. Our budget would be impacted. If we receive more students, then we would earn more additional funding based on how many students we earn. We do have a $10,793,000 budget. Go ahead, KP, that's right. All right, here is a pie graph that just shows where the bulk of our funding is spent. 74% of it is instruction, which is tied to salaries and the human capital that we have and that we need. And you can see the breakdown for the other funds. Any questions about our budget, the numbers?
Quick question. Hey, Principal Garner.
Hey.
For the transportation, who where does the 45,000 go? Is that just like for when the school wants to go somewhere, or individual organizations they pull from that?
Yeah, so we get a bill each time we use a school bus.
Mm-hmm.
We have to pay for it, and the rate for school buses just went up by a whole lot. But every time we have after school tutoring, we get a bill for that. Every day those buses have we have to pay for. Anytime we have a field trip and we need a bus outside of what they normally do, we have to pay for that. So
is the new eco-friendly, is that why it went up? Is because are the schools paying for the eco-friendly of the new buses?
I think, and this is what I think, We had a meeting about it. I think because there's a huge shortage in bus drivers.
Yeah.
And they needed to be competitive in salaries because other districts were paying drivers more, which was causing us to lose bus drivers. Then, of course, like everything else, if we have to pay them more, then you have to pay more for the buses.
I
So
see,
that's
I
why.
see. Okay.
Good question, though. Any other questions? Mr. Trippy, were you?
Yes, so okay. So, thank you, Mr. Garner, for sharing that information. So now we will entertain the motion to approve the budget. Did I get someone second?
Yes, second.
I make a motion to, okay.
Well, I motion to approve.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say A or raise your hand.
A.
All opposed? Please say nay. Are there any abstentions? Okay, now we will move on to the information item. Information item, have the principal's report.
All right. Let's dive in. So our batch 3, of course, if you don't know, batch 3 is our district mandated screener that we have to give to our students, I believe it's 2 times a year. And it is based off of questions that try to give us a depiction of how our students are doing mentally, and if we need to provide any additional counseling or services for them. And so I want to give you a overview of that data and let you know what our next steps are. So as you can see, this is just a breakdown per grade level of the data that we received. You can see 407 or 67% of our students were at a normal risk. We had about 148 students who answered the questions who were at an elevated risk, and then extremely elevated risk, about 52 students. And you can see a breakdown per grade level. So some of the things that we do in response to this is, one, we want to make sure that those students are part of our care team. And our care team for us includes our SEL coach, our social workers, all of our counselors, and our outside wraparound service agencies, Family Ties, when they are here, also communities and schools. I think our district has done a great job as well of offering resources such as Hazel Health, which is a virtual mental health counseling service that's provided to families and to students. And so those students who are definitely in the extremely elevated risk, we have to make sure that we connect with them and make sure that they are receiving some services. And what I hope is that they're already a part of these caseloads before we even take this, based off of the information that we have before we even start the school year. But that's our response to this. We want to make sure that our students are connected to the services and the counseling that they may need. Now, Hazel Health, in all honesty, has been a situation, and I need to investigate to get to the bottom of it, because any student that we have had to apply, they haven't been able to get the actual services started. And I don't know if it's a paperwork thing or something else. What's the barrier there? But I definitely need to investigate that more closely so that our students and families can benefit from that service or those services.
Just really quick, what are the markers of risk? Like, what are, like, if you can say, like, is it risk of food insecurity? Is it risk of physical abuse? Or kind of how do they assess risk?
Yeah, so in this survey, I'm not sure of I would have to look at the questions. I know they're not asking about physical abuse, but I don't want to give any miscommunication, Rejoice. So I need to look a little closely to see exactly how they are allocated to these positions. I know as a district, once we get this report and you say you have 52 students that's at an extremely elevated,
Yeah,
then I have to connect them to the social worker and then those individuals, dig a little deeper. But I would imagine it's some of all of those things,
Yeah.
food insecurity, just and sometimes our students may feel, some students struggle with challenges, of life sometimes. Yeah. And so we want to respond to that and make sure that they feel heard and that we are getting services either in-house or outside that can assist with whatever they may be experiencing. Mr. Cogdale, yes, sir.
One thing I wanted to mention was that Call Kids is also offering opportunities to families in the neighborhood, especially the schools, not just for the students, but like for their families. So if you have families that reach out and need extra mental health help, that might be an opportunity there at Call Kids.
Ms. Ellis, anything you want to add to that? I know that Ms. Ellis on here. Anything you want to add to that?
I couldn't hear what he was saying about.
It's about the batch 3.
Some of the questions they ask, I believe if I remember correctly, were some questions like I live with my parents, I live with one parent, I live with 2 parents, my parents like me, or I feel so-and-so likes me. So if I remember correctly, those were some of the questions that they asked.
Okay. Thank you. Next slide. All right, I wanted to share with this team the same presentation that I had to share with the superintendent's cabinet for the process that we call ACES in the district. It is when each principal has to present in front of the superintendent's cabinet and the other principals just about the school, what's going well, what's not going well, what are some things that we need more support with. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to share this information with you as well. Can we pull it up, Ms. KP? While she's pulling that up, ACES takes place twice a year. So it is first semester after the first MAP assessment. And then again we call it the spring, but it's still winter after we take the winter MAP assessment. Is the link not working?
She said she's pulling it up. Oh, there it is.
All right. All right. Okay, and so I'm at the first, right here. As you can see, this is the
I'm sorry, hold on. That's the following. I'm sorry, it wasn't shared with the JLIA page. Give me one moment, y'all.
no
Okay.
worries.
but at a high level, what ACES is, it's just a lot of pertinent information that's happening in the school related to myself, our vacancies in the school, our attendance take rate, our discipline, our test scores. All right, here it is. All right. And so at the time we had one vacancy. And right now we have two vacancies. They paraprofessional position, in which we have a long-term sub, 2 paraprofessional positions. are our two vacancies right now. And one of the goals that I really highlighted at that time was our PBL. I'm really happy and excited that we've gotten PBLs off the ground and we are doing them in the school. And then a grow is we can improve our understanding and implementation of the nuances of executing project-based learning, such as the engineering design process, which will be something we'll focus on kind of heavily next year. Next slide. This is our attendance take rate, which is really solid and tight, 99.6. It dropped a little bit to 99.2 at that time, but still over 99%, which means that our attendance is pretty accurate. And then you can see our attendance, our average daily attendance. It was about 84.4 at the beginning of the year. It dropped around 83.1, which is still a lot better than we were last year. So we're holding steady with that. Also, we have students not chronically absent, which is the amount of students who have not missed 10% of the school year. We were abysmal in this area last year, and it's still not great, but we are a lot better. We're growing in every content area. And I put a note there. You can see it was 32.7 last year, which means over, just about 70% of our students have missed 10% of days, 18 days or more by the end of the school year, which is not good. Our attendance, our out-of-school suspension numbers, you can see those. We're trying to get better with that, but again, I gotta have school, gotta make sure that we have school in a safe and orderly environment. Next slide. So here are our MAP test results. And though, again, not where we want to be, you can look at fall to winter last year, 53%, and then 53 this year. And then, that's math at the top, okay, and ELA at the bottom. So we held our ground. But what I want you to see, and what you will see on the last slide, I want you guys to, like, in your minds, take a picture of this number. So right here, and I'm only looking at the red, but if you look at winter 2022, 2023, we're at 53% of our kids being in the beginning learners, right, which 47% are not, and then 56 in ELA, okay? So I want y'all to remember that. So when we get to the last slide, I'm going to reference this again.
I'm sorry, what's red, what's yellow?
I'm sorry. Good question. Red, Rejoice, are the amount of students who are beginning learners.
Okay, yeah,
All
I
right.
remember this.
40, the yellow are developing learners. Okay. And then the green, light green, is proficient, and the dark green will be distinguished.
Okay, thank you.
Right. All right, next slide. So here are our intervention numbers. As you can see, we have about 17, we average 17 minutes per week, and which is 2 days, which the district requires us to have 2 days, right? So in some cases, for Math 180, we're averaging 3 days per week, Read 180, 2.1 days, and Systems 44, 2 days. So we are right on par with what the district asked. I did add some notes. We have decreased the number of students in Math 180. So just a overview of this. Every school in Atlanta Public Schools offers intervention to address learning loss that happened during COVID. So we use a program called Math 180 for math students, and we use Read 180 or Systems 44 for ELA. So students can either be in reading, you can be in Systems 44, which means you need basic, like reading level, or you could be in Math 180, or you can be in enrichment, meaning you score high enough to be in enrichment during that time, and you don't have to have the intervention time. For math, you can either be in Math 180 or intervention. So the notes down at the bottom says we decreased the number of students in Math 180 by 42%. So we had 42% of the students who were in Math 180 to test out and be able to move into enrichment. Okay. What I'm really, really proud about is that we decreased the amount of students in Systems 44, right? So we had, 400 or 500 students in System 44, which is the basic reading. And we had 56% of those students to test out and to move into Math in the Read 180. That's good, y'all. Like, that's moving in the right direction. That's phenomenal. And it speaks to the work that our teachers are doing. Next slide. This gives a breakdown of our projections per each I can't think of the word, subgroup. All right. So if you look at the first one, it speaks to math for Black, African American students, Hispanic, and then students who are 2 or more. And then the next bar graph speaks to reading. And then the 2 on the far right speak about students with disabilities. So these are like projected students to be proficient on the Georgia milestones. A quick lesson about the Georgia milestones: each school gets something called CCRPI score, which for us right now, we are in the lowest tier, which is CSI, continuous school improvement. And we're looking to get off that list. And we have a great chance of doing so, like a really good chance of doing so, if our students continue to perform the way that they've been performing all year. And I want to say this, even if we don't get off the list, if we continue to show the growth that we've been showing, as principal, I will be, it's hard to say happy, but we will celebrate the growth because we are working hard and our students are growing. So I won't be happy, but I will be, we will acknowledge the growth because our kids are growing. They're proving that. Next slide. All right, here's just what's in our continuous improvement plan, our strategies that we promised and said that we would do. And everybody who works in the school should be familiar with this: intervention, collaborative planning, active monitoring. In math, it's the same things. For our whole child, we promise to do weekly attendance and care meetings. We promise to do student data reflections and GMAS goal setting. And then we promise to do parent nights. So at a high level, and the action steps just speak to specifically what we said we were going to do. So definitely everybody who works in the school should be super familiar with everything here, because it's not anything new. This is what we're doing. Next slide. So our highest priority needs, and I left one off, but I did want to take the opportunity to say the district has given us flexibility. We are a school that's been very innovative in some of our practices. We're the only school that does intervention the way that we do intervention. We're the only school that has a humanities course. We're one of the only schools who was able to bypass the district's pre-planning days to do our own in-house pre-planning, where we were able to go through PBLs and get that off the ground. But we do need more support, Rejoice, and I know you've been working on this around like discretionary funds. I know the superintendent really spoke about bringing partners in and raising money for schools for that purpose. We need discretionary funds. I need to be able to feed my staff a good, wholesome meal once a month. I need to be able to do that. I need to be able to incentivize students more as well. And so that is a big need. My funding, general fund budgets is fine. We can live with that. We can survive and do what we need to do. But being able to provide incentives for my staff, which is important, I don't have the funds to do that. So we do need more support in that area. Next slide. All right, next. And this is just an example of what the student goal setting and reflection looked like. So these are the forms that our students get, and they sit down and they set goals, right? We give them their summary sheets. They get to see where they are, and then they talk about strategies that they will implement to improve. I really like this process, and I'm really excited about it because it keeps the students informed of their own progress, what they're doing. Next slide. All right, we can bypass this. These are just some testimonials from some of our teachers and our parents that we had during parent night. Now, remember, I was telling you guys to lock in that math number and that ELA number from last year, because this is where we landed on the Georgia milestones last year, okay? And let me say this, even though we had 66% of the students in beginning in math and 60% of the students in beginning in ELA, this was still better than what we had pre-pandemic. This was an increase, all right? But if you remember those numbers now, do you remember what the number was after the winter map assessment on the previous slide? Anybody
Like
remember?
53.
53%.
At 53. So how much of a decrease is that? If we landed at 66, but in the winter we were at 53. This was last year, we landed at 66 at the end of the school year.
13.
So a 13% decrease in math. I'll take it. I'll take it. If we jump from 66% in the beginning last year, and if we land at 53% this year, like, we're gonna celebrate that.
Absolutely.
We're gonna celebrate that. And then ELA was similar. What was the number? Anybody remember?
56, I think it was.
Right. Which is about a 4 percentage point decrease, which is not as wide, but it's still really good. One other thing I want to point out too, to defend the humanities class. All right. I was just looking at some data now. Looking at spring. So we was looking at spring map assessment this year and last year, because last year we didn't have humanities. And I want to let you, and it's just 6th and 7th grade. So I want to let y'all know 6th and 7th grade humanities last year at spring, we had 68% of the kids in beginning. This year with humanities, it's 57. Yeah. It's like an 11 or 12% decrease. Now, which is good. But when I looked at all the other middle schools in the district, spring last year to spring this year, 6th and 7th grade, nobody has that much growth. Not even close. They may have 1 percentage point growth, 2 percentage points growth, whatever, right? I'm not saying that to brag because we still not where we want to be. But what I am saying is that we're moving. The things that we're doing is building traction. And if we keep doing it, we will eventually get to where we want to get to. But that speaks volumes, because when I talk to the district about that and they say, well, how's humanities going? Well, look at the numbers. That's the only thing that's changed, is that we're doing that course. And so I believe it's working well. We're going to double down on it. All right, next. I think that's it for ACEs. All right.
Thank you, Principal Gunn, for that information.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any additional information that needs to be shared? No additional information?
No.
Announcements? Are there any announcements?
No, I would just say, you guys are just so dynamic. You know, this is very difficult. Looking at it, I have to check myself too, because sometimes like I could be really persnickety when I'm looking at anybody's data points. But then I remember being a teacher. I remember you guys are literally trying to boil the ocean. and doing so much with so little. So I'm just like, hats off to all the growth and all the consistency. We went over the results from the lunch that we had, and a lot of the teachers responded, you know, hey, we need more of these resources. And I really just believe from the humanities courses, from any social emotional learning, benefits, other things that partners like Roy and I could find and get to the teachers and really help is going to make that jump too. So right now it's all about data. What is this school as a collective body, partners together doing differently to cause systemic change? And I also feel it, Principal Garner, that we're heading in the right direction with some of these strategic things. And just thank you for being such a good leader to see the growth and say, no, we're going to celebrate right here, because that's so important, because we can feel beat up because
Right.
it's not as much growth, but seeing what the teachers are doing every single day, that's really big. So it's important to celebrate, because you guys are just dynamic, just
And I
dynamic.
don't want to beat my teachers up because
Yeah,
I
no,
love them
yeah,
and they come to work
yeah.
and grinding every single
Every single
day.
day,
I
looking
don't
good
want
in that
nobody to leave.
orange, Miss Triplet,
Yeah,
wearing her,
man, I need to.
wearing her colors.
Yeah,
You guys are amazing.
Roy, yes, sir.
Just want to congratulate Miss Haddock for putting on her first
Yes.
career day last week. We had about
Hey.
I was gonna congratulate him. Look, now let's play a little tennis. Thank you. It would not have been a success without you. That was you.
Well,
just
I just
partnered
hope
with
that
you.
the students got something out of it, and I see it being something that we could replicate and grow off of. So really excited to see what the next one could look like.
Yes.
As am I.
Yes, it was amazing. It's so good when you have just quality people around you. As principal of the school, there's so many things happening, but I can rest easy in sometimes not knowing all of the details because I know the quality of the people. So at first I didn't know, so I would be nervous and up and trying to be all in the mix with everything. But if they tell me Miss Haddock God is doing something to Roy, I'm like, I know it's going to be phenomenal because I know what kind of people they are. And what they represent. So thank you guys for all the opportunities you guys are doing for our school, Grove Park, man. I wouldn't want to be in this work without you. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Our pleasure.
Sound like Phil Jackson coaching us. You sound like Phil Jackson.
Say Phil
Phil
Jackson.
Jackson just said, I gotta just let Dennis, just gotta give trust and some
Right.
encouragement, and yeah, we'll all do our part.
And get out the way, right? Get out the way. I gotta say though, we have STEAM Parent Night coming up. We're really trying to boost this up. Grove Park again. Thank you guys so much for assisting us with pizza and food for that night. But it's going to be March 23rd from 5:30 to 7. Parents and students will be doing STEAM design challenges. We'll have some raffles. We have some air fryers and some gift cards to give away. There will be free food and beverages. So spread the word. I know I got a few parents on here. We need you here. Students can get and will get extra credit for bringing the parents. So please be here for that night. STEAM, Spring into STEAM, March 23rd. It's on our website. It's on the marquee. Please come out if you can. That's all I have.
All right, so now we have reached the end of our agenda. Is there any additional information? Any additional information? If not, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, please say A or raise your hand.
Hey,
All opposed, please say nay or raise your hand. Any abstentions? All right, guys. Meeting is
Have a good night,
adjourned.
lovely people.
Have a great night, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Huh?
Bye.
All right, good night.